So anyway, so the FM200 is, and we had this ridiculously expensive data center fire suppression system, which was frenetically beeping with the everything normal, everything okay alarm. So it is literally, this is like, it's like all the things are flashing, everything okay, system normal, system normal. You're like, okay. Like, if the system is normal, maybe we can tone it down a little bit. Like, maybe you don't need to scream at me that the system is normal. And it turns out, of course, it's a firmware bug, their firmware bug. That isn't everything. But so we were wondering, like, you don't think that, like, this thing has been just screaming in here? Like, do you don't think that's related? Nah, it can't be related. But actually, hey, wait a minute, we could use sound to induce this. So he's going to go back and write just a little program on his laptop, using Python or whatever, to just go generate a bunch of sounds. And he's going to and see if he can get sound to induce the latency. So he goes into the lab, and I go go back to work, which is on the next office over. And like maybe 3 minutes later, Brendan comes running in. This is not a guy who runs in the course. Like, if he's running, you run in the same directions that he is running. This is not someone who usually runs in the office. And he says, "You gotta come see this." And I'm like, okay. So he goes running back, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I'm running after him. And he's got this display up. Looks very similar to this, where he's looking at ops per second and looking at latency, and in terms of disk latency, and zeroing in on disk operations higher than, in this case, I think it was 500 milliseconds. So he props me up in front of this thing, and then he goes in front of the JBOD. Sorry, watch that. He just goes, "Brah!" from like 6 inches away. And all of a sudden you see like, boom, you see this huge latency outliers. And I'm obviously laughing, and we're like, okay, like, we gotta go put this on YouTube. So I grabbed the camera. Fortunately, he had a camera there. We grabbed the camera. We just did one take. And so I don't know if you happen to see this got viral. We did this over the Christmas holiday, and there was, he and I were the only ones in the office, and apparently you all were at home wondering what the hell to do with yourself. So this ended up, I thought this would be seen by a couple thousand people. We put it on our blogs or whatever. It turns out this has been seen over 500,000 times. It has been seen more than any media ever put together by Sun. As it turns out, it's more than they've got the entire list. It's more than the next 10 put together. And I feel a little bit awkward because, like, the one thing is, like, the media, the marketing VP is just like, hey, it's been really successful. We do wish you had said the name Sun Microsystems in there. Like, did we not? No, I guess we didn't. I'm sorry. And by the way, the reason that this was, if you saw this video, and you can, YouTube, by the way, now thinks that I'm some sort of big-time content pimp. Every time I go to YouTube, it invites me to participate in the revenue sharing program. Because it's like, something seen by 500,000 viewers, not necessarily that impressive. Something seen by 500,000 viewers that does not infringe on anyone else's copyrights and does not involve kittens, that's impressive. And so they're like, hey, like, why don't you join our content? And I'm like, listen, I am a one-trick pony. Like, I'm done. I'm one and done. Like, I got nothing else. We just got Brendan shouting at JBods. That's it. And if you look at that video, by the way, you'll notice that the camera is shaking a little bit the second time he does it. That's because I'm still laughing. I'm only seeing it for the third time. And the reason, by the way, that got so many views, I think, is not, it's showing an interesting issue. That my one regret of the video is not the lack of the Sun Microsystems name. My one regret of the video is that we did not explain how we got there. So if you saw that, you would just think, like, well, I don't scream my data center too much. And all right, so when I shout at the data center, I need to go shout at like some like my SSDs or whatever instead of my spindles. But the way we got there is not by just like randomly shouting at infrastructure. The way we got there, a problem which you generally don't have, the way we got there is the loose screw, which is a problem that you probably do have. We all have loose screws, right? You got a screws in your spindles. There's a screw loose in there somewhere. And if it's not a screw, it's a cable. We found this with cable. We found this with doing same kind of analysis. Found a gig E cable that was negotiating down to 100 megabit because it was a bad cable. Good luck finding that, right? Very, very hard to find that kind of stuff. It really stuck out when we were looking at latency and looking at bandwidth. We could isolate a single NIC. So you can find lots of physical problems in your infrastructure by and the ability to visualize DTrace has taken it to the next level. We are now, and I use DTrace when I'm solving a problem that requires that arbitrariness. It requires me to, and I use DTrace every day to do that. But if I just want to visualize the system, this is the way I do it. Analytics is definitely my preferred vector. And just one footnote, and then I'll open it up for questions, but one final footnote on that video. I would love to say that video was watched by so many people because they really, they appreciate the foundation technology and DTrace and blah, blah, blah. That's not it. The reason people watch that video is because we always have wanted to anthropomorphize the machine. Right? And in particular, like, think of your parents, right? When they're not able to log into Yahoo, it's always like, oh, the computer's mad at me. It's like, it's not mad at you, Mom. The caps lock key is on. The caps lock key is mad at you. That's why you can't log in. All right, maybe that's too personal a story. It's a lot of issues, I guess. It's Mom picking up when I'm on the BBS, Mom! All right, sorry. Back in the day, for you youngsters, we'll talk about what that is later. But people always want to anthropomorphize the machine, and the whole idea that if you go shout at your infrastructure, it's sad or mad, and so it gives you bad latency. People just love that idea. It's like, well, don't shout at your JBODs. Like, they obviously don't like it. So I think that's why that got so many hits. Fortunately, we don't have to anthropomorphize the machine. You feel free to torture your machines as much as you want. We don't need to anthropomorphize them. But so that gives you an idea of what we can do. I didn't get a chance to. I want to open it up for a couple minutes of questions. There are other aspects of this facility that we didn't get to. But suffice it to say that every element of this facility, of the analytics facility in the Sun Storage 7000 series, every aspect of this facility is here because we needed it to go understand performance. So we do not just kind of invent things for their own sake. We very much invent them to help you solve your problems because we're trying to solve your problems alongside you. So with that, I'll thank you very much and open it up to questions.
How you doing? That was fantastic. Thank you. I was wondering, we have a couple 4500 series that I would love to lay that tool down on top of. Is that available for that?
Yeah. Did someone put you up to this? This is always the first question. It's a totally natural first question. It's like, so when can I get this for my other end machines?
I mean, it's Sun. Come on.
Yeah, it is Sun, right? Same company. So yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to do that for you. Unfortunately, so the 4500 in particular. That is not supportable by us as an as appliance for some in-depth reasons that we can get into, and there's just not enough of a business case there. Which, with my new masters, we actually care a lot more about, as it turns out. It's like, oh, we're actually going to look at how we make it and lose money. Wow, okay, that's foreign. Okay, let's do that. Let's try it. We'll try it your way for a couple of decades. See if it works out any better. There's not really a business case there. I think what we want to do, my vision for this is not just as an as appliance. Because it's like, when you have this, what's specific to storage about this, really, right? Like, why can't I have this on my compute nodes? Why can't I have this on my networking nodes? We went after the NAS space because it was the one that was most obvious to us. It was the one in which there was most room for disruptive innovation. It's the one in which you were paying way too much, frankly. We come in with a much cheaper product. I want to take this to all those other spaces.